everybody. We're Wix Studio. And we're here to share an inside look of our studio. It's Hagit, Andrew, and myself in this order, so let's begin.
Wow, so many of you. We are so excited to be here. So the year was 2007, 9 years ago. My boyfriend at the time just started working at a small startup, easy creating Flash MySpace comments. Remember that era? That was ended. One day he called me in panic. The designer working at the startup was going on a short vacation. Could I just step in as their designer for the time I was away? My name is Hagit, and today I'm the VP Design of that small startup Wix.com. Coming here today, I wanted to share how it all began. How our design studio grew from 5 designers to 100 we are today, and a few things I learned along the way. So a few of my team members are here in the crowd. I couldn't let you meet me without meeting all the others, most of the others. So this is them. At the Tel Aviv port, just outside our studio. Later on, you're going to meet also Andrew and Shelly, who will tell you more about how we keep the quality working in such a large group, and how we keep our culture, a very unique culture. So this was my design team, and this is my other team, my family. My husband, 2.5 kids. We also have 2 cats and 1 dog, very dominant one, who comes to work every day with us. Over the years, those 2 teams become very connected. Maybe because I grew them both at the same time, but also because I learned that growing a good design team is very much like growing a family. And this is what happens when the 2 teams come together. This is my youngest, Lily, and Jacko the dog. And you will hear from Shelly later on about the setup they're sitting at. Oh, I can see you, right? One more thing I want to add about myself. I'm a designer. Today we consider me as a web designer. However, before I joined Wix, I practiced print. I ran a small business. This was my specialty. I drew assembly instructions. I drew hands and screwdrivers for my living, and I liked it. But until that phone call called me to be a web designer. And how did I switch from print to web design? Bear with me and you'll surely understand. So, I was never the best designer at my super talented team. But a short time after I joined this team, I realized I am really good at listening and understanding the way designers think. That may be able to create structures and workflows that help them to excel in what they do. I also figured that designers think very differently from developers and from marketing people. And that may be able to connect the design of the technology with the business and with the vision of the company. So from there, it was a very short way to represent the design studio at the management level, and I became the studio manager. And a few years later, as Wix grew, I became the VP of design. So working and managing in a company that grew from 10 employees to 1,200 in 8 years is a crazy roller coaster. There's so much to do and so much to learn all the time. I want to share with you today 5 of my personal beliefs. In a way, these are the 5 anchors that I follow all the way in managing this huge design team. Maybe because my own path from print to web design, I truly believe a good designer is a good designer. Sorry, I'm really excited. But I really believe it. So, as a designer with that practice print, when I came to Wix, I had to learn that once the technology barrier was removed, I could do a great design for the web as well. Actually, I figured that the principles of design for print are pretty much the same. Our team is a wide collection of all kinds of talents, from artists to stylists, from fashion designers to illustrators, and of course we have the typical web designers too. And I know professional experience has a lot of value. I really believe that if you have good typography abilities, if you have the right style, if you are good at understanding layouts and messaging, you can be a really good designer for every platform and every task. Second, I'm sure you don't need me to come here and stand in front of you and tell you that technology and design go hand in hand. They're really related to each other. That technology must look good in order to attract the eye and to be something we want to carry with us all day long. And even the content we consume on an hourly basis from our phones. And design must fit the technology in order to make it as easy to use. At Wix, on the other hand, the strength of the meeting between technology and design happens when the designers sit separately from the developers and create their fantasy design. Only after the developers comes in and challenge themselves to enable those designs through code in the Wix editor. So my point is this. To be a good designer, you must know what's new and how the evolution of technology can make your designs even better. Big studio equals endless opportunities. Well, we are 100 designers today. It's a huge studio, it's not just a big one. And I hear a lot of designers think that working in a small studio is much more cooler. You get to be independent. It's much more boutique. You don't have to work for the men. I completely disagree with that. It's only in a large group with a lot of responsibilities that you get really challenged. That you get to move between design fields, different design fields. And one more thing. Okay, and the biggest plus of it all. Now I'll give you an example for that. It's only in a big group where a designer can work on an everyday task, like designing a Facebook page post or landing page, and a week later to brand a huge event for 1,200 employees, for example, and a month later to run a campaign, a Super Bowl campaign, or collaborate with DreamWorks. Only in big studio that can happen. And the biggest plus of all, our studio is filled with those amazing minds that you get to get inspired by and to consult with. Imagine it's like a mini OFF population. Every day you get to work, and it's really fun, and Shelly will tell you more about that. Shine bright like a diamond, not my words. But they are smart ones. I want to talk about the competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is that one thing that you do better than everyone else around you. I think it's a combination between your talent and your personality. And I'll give you an example here too. You can be just a good designer, but with manager skills, or to have this push-it temperament that allows you to be the perfect person to run the brand, to lead the brand at a big company, or you have a crazy appetite to pop culture that makes you the right person to come up with the creative for the next TV campaign. So everyone has it, and everyone should use it. And it's my job to recognize it and to put everyone at the place that will do the great job there. And this is my last thought for today, before I move to Andrew. You are the olive oil. It took me a long time to describe myself as olive oil. And it sounds a little funny, comparing a designer to salad dressing, and I'll explain here too. The designer is the one who makes it all work together. The technology, the creative, and the product. No doubt, each should be great on its own. But to have the complete package and to have it as good as it can, that's where the designer comes in. So these were my 5 beliefs. And now I want to introduce you to a special oil boy, Andrew, who is
my name is Andrew, and I'm doing product UI design at Wix. I'm working here almost 5 years, which is pretty a lot. And I've designed the main, our product website. Great opportunity to join such a big team of designers and to work with them really closely. We also have a really big team of developers, so I would love really to share with you my experience from that. But before that, let me ask, who is doing product UI design in this room? Can you raise your hand, please? A lot, nice. So I'm really happy that here's a lot of people who is probably meet the same problems as I at the beginning of the process. And more about problems I will describe later, so stay with me and you will see. This is our latest project, what I worked on, and this new product is supposed to be launched in 2 weeks, so stay with us and check our updates. So basically for most of the people, this design looks pretty simple and nothing really complex about this. Some buttons, shapes, color background, but I can promise you that there is something more complex behind and more interesting. And this is what I'm going to talk about now. So, smart process, what does it mean? A lot of designers, especially UI designers, when they get some mock-ups and they want to design something, they because of this strict deadlines, they run and jump to the design and start just to do things. And I want to share you the way how we started to work. So before jump and start to design and play with the colors, think about how your design will work with the other people, how you will share all colors, all fonts, everything what you have. And especially when you're working with a big team, think how to make the process more smart. So imagine that your product, it's your universe, and you're creator there. So everything what you can do, you can create all really cool rules which work for you and which will guide your product to the next level. And imagine that in our Earth we have gravity, and when I drop some things, it will fall down. And all of you guys know that the day have 24 hours, and we can easily count on those 24 hours, right? So we can plan our days according to those 24 hours. And the same things how you need to think according to your product. You need to think how to create the rules which will guide you, which will help you in the future to make the product better, to work it better, and to, of course, if you're working with a big team, how you will communicate with them. So one of the examples, for example, the color palette. I think most of you guys pick the colors for your products, and which is really cool, but I will show you the things how we start to work. For example, this is our color palette. It looks pretty simple, shades and explanation some, but before that we had some problems because that we are a really big team of designers. It was really complicated for us all the time to send primary colors. Everyone asked about hex color, and I think you probably had the same problem. So there really is a solution for that, or change everything. It's just adding the name for the colors. And for you it looks maybe so obvious and simple, but imagine that before we didn't work with that, and it was absolutely different experience, because now we know that like we give specification for the colors, and each colors work like for himself. Let's say that our primary buttons, we can say that it's B1, and the hover for the colors is B2, which is make process much better. And it solves problem with the sending hex color to each other. And also, we not sending hex color for the developers, and they know better the way how it should work. Another example is typography. As you know that the typography takes the biggest part, especially today in the design. And think just about how you can work, how your typography will scale in the future. Think about styles, think about how many different font styles you're supposed to use. And the easiest way to do that, just create the fonts map with the scale examples. You can use any like algorithm for that, but just to have all your font sizes next to each other and to see the contrast between them, it will help you to solve problems in the future, because you will not raise the question which font size I need to use for the title or which font size I'm going to use for the body text, because you already defined it before. Another example is shadows. Not a lot of people cares about shadows, especially developers. I mean, for them, all shadows look the same. And we had this really funny situation when developers have done our latest project editor. I think it was 1 year ago, and it was all panels has different shadow, but for developers it looks the same, which is funny. I mean, so the easiest solution which I found to do is just create the shadow map. I mean, create the different size of the shadow. Create the right structure, create the logical for your shadows. And so next time when you would like to emphasize some objects, you're going to use the big shadow, like here SH6. Or if it's less important, less dominant object, you will pick another. And you will avoid situation when designers exploding and creating new shadows for your product, if you're using the shadow. And the last example is command controls. What is command control? It's a group of elements which you can use many times. And this can really save your time and make and keep the quality better. So basically this is just the examples how command controls works. So think about how you can create the elements which will work many times for you. Think about how to make the process more smart. And for example, just making command controls, from our experience, save us a lot of time, because we redesign the website builder for 3 months, and we have hundreds of panels, and that was amazing, really. So, I mean, even if it looks really simple and obvious, just think about when you're going to start to design something like that. So what do we achieve at the end? Of course, quality. Because when you have all your rules together, and when everything is mapped, you can control quality, because you're designing these things, and it will really help you to see and to plan your design in the future. Also time saver, because you're prepared everything before, you will not spend time to think what color I'm going to use for this button, what font size I need to pick. I mean, you will spend time for more real problems, for more challenging stuff, instead of create this question again and again. Scalable design. You know, because we invent this color map, which you saw before, which is I mean, for you it maybe seems pretty simple, but now to change the all colors in our main products, it will take us a few minutes, because all elements mapped to the color map. So basically we're changing in one place and then it will change all over the product design. Of course, communication with the designers. It's impossible to work without any kind of rules. And any kind of system better than to work just with a mess, especially when you're working with the designers. And when you got all those information, it will help you to deliver already defined stuff for the developers. Because as you know, developers really love to work with the definitions, with the specifications. So basically you also have this work for them done. So all those things will give you freedom, because you will think about more important things how to solve, instead of like to put in your mind things which is less relevant and less important. And more about freedom, welcome my colleague Shelly.
Hi everybody. Yeah, this is me, turning freedom into value, and my name is Shelly, and I'm here to share my part of the Wix Studio. And as you can see from my title, I'm not a designer, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about design. After Andrew talked to you a little bit about how rules and guidelines can help you create freedom, I want to talk about a different aspect of these two words, design and freedom, and to show how when we use them together in the studio, we create some really cool stuff. But before I show you these projects, I want to talk a little bit more about this word freedom, especially what it means in Wix, a little bit about what it means to me, and how we even got to this place where freedom is part of what I do. So freedom. This is Ariel from my team demonstrating freedom. And I know it could be quite a big word. I mean, when I say design, then everybody in the room here pretty much knows what I'm talking about. But freedom is a different story, because it's a word that's a bit bombastic. It can be used as a cliche. I know that everybody has his own meaning to it. But actually in Wix, and I mean generally in the company, not just in the studio, Wix, freedom means exactly what it means. It's about being able to do whatever you want to do. As long as you'll end up using that freedom in a way that brings back value to the company or to your product or to your team, you can do pretty much anything you have in mind, I promise you. And that specific quality about Wix was something that to me personally was super important before I came to work there, and I would like to tell you why. So I know the first thing that I said about myself is that I'm not a designer, and I'm really not, but I did study design. I graduated about 8 years ago, and I even practiced it for a little bit. For a year about after graduation, I did some freelance work, and I worked in small design studios. But pretty quickly, I got the feeling that something was missing. And this is how my story with the world of fashion and internet began. And like many good stories that involve the internet, it also includes some embarrassing photos from my past, like this one. So yeah, this is me, and never in my life have I believed I will watch it on such a big screen. So, like I said, the year was 2008, and the entire world started to discover blogging, and so did I. And I started to write a blog about fashion. It was mainly about clothes and what I wore, and for that purpose, I took really bad pictures of myself and I documented it. And it was really amazing because it started out as a really small adventure, just our own little project. But pretty quickly, it turned into quite a huge thing. And during the 3 years that it lasted that we did that, it actually ended up being sold to a bigger website, and we merged into another company, and we worked with them for a while. And actually, up until today, it's one of Israel's most successful fashion websites. But what was amazing about that time is that during those 3 years, we had to do practically everything ourselves. Write and edit and style and photo shoot, design of course, and doing finance and publishing. And what was amazing about this is that we had so much freedom to decide on so many things. And that sense of freedom was something that really stuck with me. And I knew that no matter what I do next, I have to find a place that will allow me to sustain this freedom. And like I told you in the beginning, I found Wix, which is a place that really enables freedom. And lucky for me, the team I work in the studio, freedom is not just there for us to use, it's actually a must. So I work in a team called Design Development. And basically what we do in the company and in the studio is we develop design in Wix. I know it sounds a little odd maybe. So if people would ask me to describe it theoretically, I would say that we try to empower the designers in the studio and to push the design forward in everything that Wix does. But what it means practically, which is what I'm here to share with you, is that we actually use these two very high-level words, design and freedom, and we use them in a way that actually brings back value to the company, to the designers, or to the studio. And that's the three projects I will share with you now, so let's start. The first one is a project that we do, and it's done thanks to the fact that we are free to be individuals. It's called the Wix Studio Salon. So, you know by now that we are more than 100 designers working together, which means that keeping a personal touch between everybody is getting to be quite a challenging task. There are only so many people you can fit around a very small lunch table. But since the studio was small not so long ago, we know how important it is to maintain that feeling, that sense of getting to know each other personally. And we didn't want to lose that. So we wanted to do something about it, and here is what we did. Remember this set from before? This is our Wix Studio Salon, which is basically our own talk show. So you know how you have like your favorite talk show, Oprah Winfrey or Jimmy Kimmel interviewing your favorite celebrity, and you think you know them, but then they ask them these new questions and you get to find new things about them? This is what we wanted to recreate. To have two designers that will sit on the sofa, one will interview the other, and we will learn new things about them. And the only rule about these things is that it doesn't have to be about work. It's about us, the designers. And this is what it looks like when we do it. Sorry for the bad iPhone 5 picture. So here you can see Moan, who's an account manager at the studio, and she's interviewing Yamit, who's an art director. And what's funny about this example is I got to know why it is that I keep hearing Yamit singing in French all the time in the studio, which she does all the time. Apparently she's taking French lessons, and the way they learn the language is through songs. So this is why she keeps singing. And what's nice about it is it's just the freedom that we have in this specific project. It's just the freedom to take just half an hour after lunch, only once a month. But the value we get back from it is both us having the chance to learn to get to know each other. Also, it ends up bringing value to our work. Yamit, for example, did the art direction for a French commercial market at the end, so it was pretty helpful that she knew French and we knew that. And moving on to the second project, it's one that was done thanks to the fact we have freedom to be designers. It's called the Wix Fanzine. And before I explain what freedom and value have to do with it, I want to show you what it is. So as you can see, it's a magazine. This is one of two issues that we ended up printing out. It was an internal magazine that was handed just to the Wix employees in the company. And the content of the magazine actually came to us from the management. It was the 10 internal values of Wix. What we did with it, the magazine, these are the two issues, was something that we, the studio, came up with. So it seems like a nice project, right? We got a brief from the management, no less. We did a magazine we wanted, which is what we wanted to do. And I can tell you the entire company loved it. The employees wanted more copies, they hang it on their wall. So it's a nice story with a happy ending, right? But not really. Because actually, in order for us to actually go ahead with doing this magazine, we had to really fight our way to it. And we had to fight for the right to be designers and to have our way. Because when we got the brief from the management, what they wanted was, of course, for us to make it pretty, but to make it quick. And making quick with a magazine doesn't really sit well, so it took us some time. But as you can see, it worked out and we did get to have our way and to do it. But what was the most amazing thing about it, and the greatest value of all from it, is that the management themselves actually was the one who saw the big value. And the thing was that even the CEO, our CEO himself, ended up saying to us that if he had known from the beginning that this is what we were going to do with the magazine, then he probably wouldn't have said yes to us doing it. But after he got the copy and he flipped through the pages and he read everything and saw what we did, then he was really proud of it and he loves it. So that was the greatest value of all, to have him seeing that the freedom that he gave us wasn't for nothing. And you can see the value of designer thinking and creative thinking. And the third and final project is one that we do actually each year, and it's thanks to the fact that we are free to be not just designers within Wix, within the company, but actually to be part of a larger community, our local design community. It's called the Wix Fest, and what it is basically is a one-night design festival. We have design talks and workshops and the designer community mingling together. And what's amazing about this, I think, and what is unique about this project is that you can work in a company and be involved in creating conferences or talks or meetups, but it would usually mean that you would have to serve your company's agenda and to do basically what you're told. But in the Wix Fest case, it's actually the opposite way around. Each year we come up with our own crazy idea for what we want to do, and we get the resources to do it. So here, for example, is an image from our last event. And for this event, our crazy idea was, hey, why don't we bring an international guest speaker for the first time? And it's what we did. We actually got Tobias van Snyder, which I'm guessing most of you know. And we brought him for a full week in Tel Aviv, and the entire design community could come and listen to his talk for free, which was pretty amazing. In this event, we also had this little press print workshop that everybody could do. I remember the first time I attended a Wix Fest, which was many years ago, and it was a much smaller event at the time. I wasn't a Wix employee yet, I just came there as a guest, and it was held like in the company's garage. Even then, I remember I heard for the first time talk about designing for mobile, and back then there was a silk print workshop. And I remember thinking to myself, what a great company and a great studio it is that will do such a thing, that will host this event for free just for designers to enjoy. And I think that up until this day, this is what makes this event so valuable. For the designers coming, then of course they get to enjoy this event, but also for the company and for the studio. They get to have each year people like me back then thinking what a great place this is, and maybe even ending up working there like myself. So I want to finish by coming back to this word, freedom, and to say that I think it doesn't matter if you're a freelancer or if you're working for a small company or a huge studio, then sometimes freedom can be right under your nose, and it's all about the way you choose to use it, or ask for it, or just take it. And I want to say thank you for sharing our inside look of the Wix Studio, and on behalf of Hagit and Andrea and myself, and the entire Wix Studio, thank you for joining us. And you're welcome to visit at our booth.